Total War Rome 2 Emperor Edition. It says a lot about a game when you've never actually played it, you've only heard bad things, and your immediate and only thought about playing it is... And when I announced that I was going to be doing a tasteful review on this game, immediately everybody started telling me to rip it to shreds, really bring that game down a notch. Which really got me interesting to see just how bad this game is, because whilst it did have a pretty rocky launch, I can imagine that after a while it's probably patched enough that it's quite playable. And you know what, surely if it's that bad, I don't need to tear it apart. I'm sure it'll tear it apart on its own. But ignore that, let's just get right into it, and you guys can join me on my tasteful review of Rome Total War 2 Battles. Where better to start than the game's most esteemed feature, its in-depth real-time strategy battles. So my immediate thought was I'd hop into the historical battle section, a section that's always been in most Total War games, and see what battles they have. And whilst there are quite a few less than I remembered in other Total War games, there's still quite a handful for you to try out some of the early in-game strategies, try out some of your favourite battles that happened in history, and learn the basics of the battling mechanic. Oh, mechanics. So I think I'll start with the Battle of Cannae. Now, it's probably a big famous battle that most of you don't know about, but oh, wait a second. I don't remember Steam existing in the Battle of Cannae. This isn't right. That's right, what better way to start a game than being linked to a store page letting you know that you can buy this part of the game for a small fucking price. Okay, fine, what about the Battle of Elite? That's fine, 2 out of 8 battles being locked away is no problem. Oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me! So after eventually finding a battle that I could play, I was immediately put straight into the action, which is how exactly I like to be playing my game. And the first thing I noticed, this game now has Naval Warfare compared to its predecessor, and of course more features equals more fun, doesn't it everyone? Doesn't this look fun? And of course, pitting the whammy on the Naval Warfare is that you can now have your navy's help in your battle. That's right, that top Roman tech siege artillery mounted on a boat is unstoppable. We missed. So the first thing I noticed when getting into the battle is that most of the unit cards seem to look pretty much exactly the same. I mostly put that down to me just not knowing the units immediately, so I wasn't really that keen on knowing what I was looking for, but it did become an issue later on when other factions aren't so clearly distinguished. I'm in a high tension, all stakes matter scenario. Why exactly would you want to be able to distinguish between your units quickly? Come on, what are you, some sort of fucking Roman tryhard? Get out of here, kid. That's right, lads, all 4 of us in different stages of boarding are doing our part for the war by burning down this metal door. Keep up the barrage, man. I'm sure any day now this door... Oh, it's opening and that basically summed up how that battle went. Quick, help put out the fire with more fire! You know how middle-aged men usually buy Lamborghinis and Ferraris to overcompensate for their age or small penises? Well, back in the day we didn't have no Lamborghinis or Ferraris, we had war elephants. First thing I was pretty damn impressed by the campaign menu is that there are actually a bunch of different countries, way more countries than were available before in other Total Wars. Of course though, most of them you do have to fucking pay for. Why yes, Georgios Popolopidos of Philosophimos. I would love to play as your culture in the Greek city-states, but unfortunately, I don't have $5.99 in my Steam wallet. Perhaps instead of the money that I could pay for your culture, maybe you would accept a gladiator fight in my name, or the head of a fallen enemy, or maybe Bitcoin. So the first game I played as was the Ptolemaics down here in Egypt, most famously their only contribution to history being adding an extra P to the start of their fucking name for no goddamn reason. I mean, if we're just gonna go ahead and add letters anywhere we want, then I'll start by changing my name to iSorrowproductions, but the X is actually pronounced as a fucking C. Oh yes, it's me, iSorrowproductions here. So the thing that caught my attention immediately was just how big the world map is. It wasn't that surprising after playing Total War Warhammer 2. But it also left a very sour taste in my mouth, that being that I already kinda didn't want to play the game and now I have to travel all over the fucking world. I mean, they say Rome wasn't built in a day, but god damn it guys, you could have invented Ubers a bit quicker. So the building system is different than the original Total War, obviously. Things can't stay the same forever. I mean, why would you make an already existing system that was quite easily manageable into something that's quite easier manageable, but also quite limiting to your future development in this province? I do quite enjoy the building system, but what I don't enjoy is these fucking unit cards, because once again, I really don't know what the fuck I'm looking at. Pointy Spearman, Pointy Man, and Pointy Man doing a fucking dance. Of course, they're not incredibly hard to distinguish by. If you really want to, you can distinguish them quite easily at a look, but the point is, they're all the fucking same colour. I'm just not a big fan of the style. Good to see that some things don't ever change, like the annoying advisor trying to tell me how to play the game when I have no idea how to play the game. Whilst this doesn't exactly fit into the campaign section of this review, I do have to point out that the people in this game kind of look a bit odd. For a game that came out in 2014, I was kind of expecting more from my leaders than looking like the type of guy that run up to you in a field and tell you about how it's almost harvesting season. Giving the game credit that I'm only running the graphics on Ultra, instead we should be running on Extreme, because after Very High there should be 2 more graphic settings apparently. Let's see, not much has changed, but let's see. Oh, there we go, it's still almost harvesting season. You know, the fact it says that my leader, the leader of my country, is steadfast, but he looks like he's about to cry because someone called him a mean word on the internet, doesn't fill me with hope that he's actually steadfast. Oh yes, the famous battle of the blue guys and the reskinned exact same units, the yellow guys. This is probably a very nitpicky thing on a technical level, but have you noticed the fact that all of my guys are just 3 different people reskinned onto different bodies? By George, it's the famous Ptolemaic triplets! I mean, I understand why there are actually like 5 different guys. They have tried to like make it so all of the people in the army kind of look different, but it happens to be when there are only 5 different variations of the same face. When you see 3 of them lined up together, it just makes it look even worse than say if there was just one face for all the people. Honestly, you probably don't look too much into your own unit's eyes anyway, and looking at their face that long will only leave you with a big sense of despair when you eventually send all of them to their death because you're too lazy to do anything than Control A, select all and click one unit. Boy, nothing like having a good old battle where you have no cavalry, so you can't charge down the enemy's running skirmishers who are... They just keep running! This battle is going pretty well, but it would be going better if one of my units wasn't having to chase one of the other enemy units halfway across the fucking map. A lot of people gave Empire and Napoleon Total War a pretty bad rating because of the warfare. You stand in lines and you just shoot at each other, but come on, how is this period any different? We've just got a bunch of spears and we're going to slowly advance. Like, oh boy, what do I do? Those spears are going to get me. How on earth will I avoid the slow-moving wall of spears? I think we're just gonna have to die. That was chlamydia. Our men are running from the back. Oh dear, if only all these dead enemies, instead of walking into the spears, went to the right or left. You know what they say, life is just you charging down the enemy's skirmishers halfway across the map, because unfortunately you're not as advanced as any other people in the world and you can't figure out how to get on the back of a fucking horse. One thing I felt like when playing Rome Total War was that the battles seemed to endlessly go on. No, not the actual battles, but the act of having a battle. It seems I was always in a constant state of fighting some sort of small stack of rebels, enemies, or hey, even my own fucking people at some points. It never really felt like it was an end, like I was going to have a bit of peace and stability in an era where conquest was constantly happening. That does make sense. Beating an enemy, taking their settlement, and relaxing, having your army be rebuilt up back to strength so you can move on to the next province was a bit damn annoying. I mean, you've taken the province already, you've got it all secured, you go on to move to the next province and oh look! The enemy's back attacking the province with a full strength army, and your army's now halfway across the map going to their province. That's fine, I'll bring 2 armies, but now they've got an even bigger army that would take down my army, which means I'm constantly bleeding troops and always in this goddamn battle screen. The endless circle of battle seems to go on forever. You take the province, you defend it, you move your army out, the enemy goes back and takes it while your army is elsewhere, you bring in another army that's not quite as good, you defend the province, perhaps you lose the province and have to bring your other army back, And end, reverse, reverse, reverse. It keeps going round and round and round. The amount of times I had to defend this province from a different fucking invasion became so annoying that I actually just ended up moving on to a different campaign. Which then again, if you don't mind the battles, that's all good, because you'll be having battles non-stop, but for me it's kind of like I like to actually do some conquesting, a bit of diplomacy, and actually getting somewhere in my fucking endeavours, not just looking at the same goddamn battle screen for over 2 hours. Naval Warfare. Something I found incredibly surprisingly fun was Naval Warfare. Of course, back in the day, they didn't have those big old cannons, or hey, even more, they didn't have no big fucking artillery shells blowing up battleships from miles away. No, the battles turned out quite differently. For the most part, the enemies would just shoot each other with bow and arrows, or if you were lucky, you'd have a catapult on the front of your ship. But the funnest part of all is just fucking ramming an enemy ship until it fucking sinks. I mean, sure, I might be on fire, but at least I'm not about to be on the bottom of the fucking ocean because I just tore your ship in half. Get fucking dunked on! Well, that's just broke my fucking immersion right there. I don't think they used to use LOL back in the day, honestly. What the fuck's this? Closing faults. One thing I wanted to point out is that there are actually different campaigns, more than any other Total War I've seen so far, in different points of history around the period. And most of these I did find to be pretty flushed out and pretty enjoyable if you do enjoy the gameplay and the way that the game plays. Of course though, there is a new DLC that came out 3 years after the game's release with no other DLC released in that time period, called Empire Divided. Now of course I'm not going to be hypocritical and say why on earth did you release this DLC 3 years after release with no other things but in between. But then again, I realised that I play Paradox games, and that's basically the same thing that's been happening for the past 7 years. I didn't give too much time to Empire Divided, but oh my fucking god, look! They've actually changed the unit cards! And boy, they're not in that style, but they are pretty bad considering they're all actually just the same unit with different types of equipment on it. God damn it, can you guys not just do it like it was before? Look, I managed to ambush this Roman army, and does anyone else question how exactly I managed to ambush this entire Roman army when we're on a flat fucking plain? Kaiser! This policy about only looking forward, do you think it might actually— No! We will only look forward unto glory, no looking to the sides! Oh look, I just walked to Rome and apparently it's not very defended. Well, I guess I won Empire Divided then, because I killed everyone in the city and now I can sack Rome and live in there. What else do I do from here? God knows, honestly. I mean, what the fuck you do when in Rome? One thing I didn't talk about was the families, dynasties and technology, mostly because they're actually pretty simple. It's almost like a quasi, very light version of Crusader Kings 2. I didn't actually find it affected me in my campaigns that much at any point, other than when Theophania decided to dance around the street naked during a festival for Poseidon. But then again, I'm not one to judge because it is 2071 BC and I'm not going to slut shame anymore. Come on guys, get with the time. It was during my second game that I realised I wasn't actually quite fit to review this game, as I had mostly grown out of the style. The battles weren't that fun, they were pretty repetitive, and I realised that was probably just down to me not really enjoying the grind of fighting battles over and over again. Sure, there were quite a few that were quite grand and actually required a bit of skill and a bit of patience to win, but then again, when I fight the battle I win it and then I have to just fight the same battle again 20 minutes later, it doesn't actually come off as that enjoyable to me. Total War is one of the genres that I can happily say if I didn't play it, I probably wouldn't have got into other strategy games that I consider better, and I definitely wouldn't be doing YouTube if I didn't have spent a whole fucking summer when Rome Total War came out playing it for like 200 to 300 hours over the course of like a month. But hey, Rome Total War could definitely be enjoyed by people who are new to this series and new to grand strategy as a whole. Personally, I feel like my time with Rome Total War and other Total War games though have probably come to an end for now. But unfortunately for the most of us, Rome Total War, the original, actually lives so close to our hearts that any other game that comes close to it unfortunately just kind of plays it in a bad light. The nostalgia of the game is so thoroughly ingrained into me that as soon as I heard of this game and how bad the reviews were, I immediately was so turned off I didn't play it for 3 years. But that doesn't cloud my judgment, because I know that this game can definitely be considered enjoyable to a lot of people, and I definitely recommend, if you like what you saw, and sure, I painted it in a bad light in some places, this game could definitely be enjoyable to most of you. Unfortunately though, I'm definitely not the person to be judging the game on any sort of merit, because I just personally could not get into it, I could not enjoy it, but that doesn't mean that you guys couldn't enjoy it. I personally think that if you liked what you see, you like the idea of loads of battles, you like the idea of a big map to go and conquer, please go ahead, go try it. I'm sure this game's pretty fucking cheap now. Enjoy it while it's out, and boy, I hope you enjoyed this for what it was, because of course I don't do any number scores or anything like that on this series. I just let people know what I thought of the game. But yeah, sorry for the rambling. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you can leave a like, hit a subscribe, as we are trying to get 200,000 by the end of the year on this channel. And until next time, guys, feel free to leave me another game you'd like for me to review or play a game of. And hey, I'll see you all next time. Just not in a Total War game, probably.